from Hollywood, I'm Martin Grove, welcoming you to our Screendollars podcast, Box Office Autopsy. In today's conversation, we'll look at the marketplace and analyze how things are going and where they're going. Joining me on the line now is Screendollars box office guru Dick Walsh. Between Dick's career in exhibition, including as film chairman of AMC Entertainment, and my own days talking about movies on CNN, Entertainment Tonight, and as a Hollywood Reporter columnist, we've logged nearly 100 years in Hollywood. That doesn't mean we're always right, but we've definitely got a few opinions to share. Well, Dick, here we are with another weekend turning out exactly as we expected. Dune, #1 again, yes?
Yes, and unfortunately the weekend was not very good, as you know, and we saw it coming. And that's why Dune, even dropping 62%, still wins the weekend.
Yes, but that 62% drop is really a very good hold. 62 sounds like a lot, of course, but it's not. It's a good hold, considering that there is day-and-date streaming competition from HBO Max, and, of course, Halloween weekend, which now means partying, trick-or-treating, which typically keeps moviegoers out of theaters. I think this year with the pandemic kind of, ebbing out and not as bad as it was, a lot of people wanted to party, and that's not good for business, is it?
No, and, it shows the whole weekend only is going to do about $63 million. And we'll get to it later, but we have a picture next week that is going to open bigger than $63 million.
Keep that everybody in suspense unless they already know what it is. But for now, just coming back to that 62%, when you look at how some other big films that opened in the summer in particular, and even in the early fall did, you see that Mortal Kombat in weekend 2 was off 73%. The Suicide Squad was off 72% as well, and Space Jam: A New Legacy off 69%. So 62 is really not bad, and overall, Dune has done 69.4 million domestic. It's still playing very well overseas. In China, it's done 33 million. By the way, China is the biggest international market for Dune, and all told, internationally, it's almost at 223 million, and the worldwide cume is just over 292 million. So Warner Brothers and Legendary have to be pleased. In fact, so pleased that the big news this week was they're going ahead with the sequel, Dune Part 2. Denis Villeneuve will return to direct it, and that is good news, is it not, Dick, for the fans of Dune?
Yes, and the picture ends on a note that says it screams for a sequel. It's grossing well enough in theaters to warrant a sequel, and now we're hearing that it's actually going to happen. And I think there's going to be big things out of the sequel coming in 2 years?
Yes, and that'll be opening October 20th of 2023. Mark your calendar; you don't want to miss it. And by the way, you were just touching on the fact that a sequel was in effect planned. We happen to have Denis Villeneuve talking about his passion for Dune and explaining that he always wanted to make it in 2 parts. So let's take a listen, and we can talk more on the other side.
It's a book that has been with me since almost 40 years. And it's a book that I read numerous times through the ages. Through my, from being a young teenager to an adult, I went back to it from time to time, discovering new things in it. It's a book that is deeply rich and talks about a very profound subject like the development of a young adult, how to find solace into another culture, how the curiosity and the capacity of adaptation is the key to survive and to the danger of blending politics and religious power, the beauty of nature, and how we should, as human beings, bring back some kind of sacred quality to our relationship with nature, that we lost respect of nature and the impact of colonialism. And it's a very rich novel, multi-layered, and when you read it you can discover new things, and it's like that's where the challenge was. It was to try to honor the complexity. Dune is a simple story, but the with a lot of background and a lot of depth, and to honor that complexity, all those details, multiple details about different cultures or different ecosystems. I needed time. That's why I decided to do it in 2 parts.
And that was Denis Villeneuve, the director of Dune, also a co-producer and also a co-screenwriter, talking about the project and his passion for it. Now, one of the interesting things about this deal that Warner's and Legendary have done with Villeneuve is that it points the way, I think, to other filmmakers who don't like the hybrid release strategy that Wall Street is, so much in love with. And it tells them, if you've got the goods, if you've got the high-profile credentials, you can now demand and get an exclusive theatrical window for your film. And I think that's good news for exhibitors. Am I crazy, or am I crazy, Dick?
No, you're crazy right. This is exactly what exhibition had hoped would happen, that the A-list directors, the A-list talent in front of the camera would react in such a fashion to see their own pictures going on television. And the idea that Dune was on a television screen is kind of sad. It's kind of having a motorboat in a bathtub. It makes no sense at all, and so exhibition, very happy, and once again, the best way to see the picture is on the big screen.
Well, yes, and in the case of Dune, since it was shot in IMAX, it was intended to be seen in IMAX, and those IMAX screens have been pulling them in. I mean, I would imagine that there aren't any seats available if you want to see it that way, but please, if you do, go try and see. You'll probably find a seat, but in any case, this picture was meant to be seen big, and we now know that the sequel will be, and we don't know in 2023 exactly what Warner Brothers or any of the studios will be doing in terms of day and dating. Hopefully nobody will be doing it, but if they are, this picture is going to be exempt because it's built into the deal, and I think we will see more filmmakers of the high-profile nature that Denis Villeneuve has. We'll see them hold out for the right terms before they sign with anybody. Now, let's go from success to, I guess, what we can call fizzle. And there are 2 of them. And what's really interesting this weekend, Dick, is that the 2 fizzling R-rated horror-type films that arrived for Halloween and haven't performed, the studio estimates on each of them are $4.16 million today. So our listeners, by the time many of them are listening, they will already know who edged out whom. But for the moment, we have them both at 4.16. The first one we should talk about is from Focus Features, and that's Last Night in Soho, which is set in 1960s London, opened at just over 3,000 theaters, so it's certainly not a good opening. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics hated it, 74%. That's not good. Maybe people think that sounds good, but it's fresh, but it's still not good. And audiences didn't agree with the critics. Audiences gave it a 92% rating. And I suppose that means it could benefit from good word of mouth. But, Dick, who's there to give it word of mouth?
Well, exactly. They missed their opportunity. I think they're going to second guess. Why did they go out on the Halloween weekend? This is as much a drama suspense movie as a horror film. And a lot of people believed in this picture, and I think they've wasted it by putting on this weekend. As you point out, 92% of the audience liked the picture, and therefore I'm going to say that it wins the weekend and will win the week over the other picture, Antlers.
Yes, and we're going to get to Antlers in a minute, but I just happen to have a film clip to share, which even though you can't see it on our podcast, you can hear it, and that tells you enough. It's a very interesting film, well done, and Edgar Wright is a good director. This film could have some awards potential, although a bad opening such as this never helps with the Oscar voters. Let's listen to this film clip from last night in Soho as Anya Taylor-Joy talks about, as she comes into the London club, and she wants to meet the owner, and goes to the bar, and I've set the story for you. Here we go. Let's give a listen.
Miss Cilla Black.
Hello, you're a gorgeous creature. What's your name?
Sandy.
Go to join my friends tonight, Sandy.
Thanks. But I'm here to meet the owner.
I am the owner.
Oh, I doubt that.
I'm whatever you want me to be, Sandy.
What's your poison, miss?
I'm not here to drink, actually. I want to speak to the owner.
Owner's not in tonight. What do you want to speak to them about?
I want to be your new headline act.
Where have you played before?
Nowhere.
Who starts at the Café de Paris?
Me.
I can take your name if you want. But maybe you should speak to Jack in the meantime.
Jack?
Over there? The guy standing next to Cilla Black. He manages a lot of girls.
That was a film clip from last night in Soho. Moving on to Antlers, which Dick just talked about, this is a more conventional horror film, but it's also interesting. It's from Searchlight Pictures, which won the Oscar last year for Nomadland and has a contender this year in The French Dispatch. But this picture is really going nowhere from them. Let's do this. Let's listen and sort of get a sense of what Antlers is like, and then come back and talk about the people who made it. So here's a look at Antlers.
Antlers tells the story of the Native American mythology of the Wendigo.
The Wendigo is an allegory where there's a spirit that comes to reconcile what the people are doing incorrectly.
All this rage, all this abuse incarnates. It's like an invocation for this creature.
The Wendigo translates to a diabolical wickedness that devours mankind.
The Wendigo myth was born out of this notion that when the English settled, they cannibalized all of the resources, leaving the Native Americans essentially to starve.
That was a look at Antlers. Dick, this picture has some impressive talents behind it. Scott Cooper directed Crazy Heart in 2009. Jeff Bridges won the Best Actor Oscar for that. Guillermo del Toro is a producer of it, and he, of course, gave Searchlight in 2017 the drama The Shape of Water. He won the Oscar for directing. It won the Best Picture award, and Sally Hawkins, who starred in it, got a Best Actress Oscar nom. So these people are accomplished filmmakers. What happened here?
Well, good pedigree, but again, I think the fact that this went out over Halloween weekend kind of doomed it to some failure, and the fact that It's now going to be in its second and third week here very quickly. It will fade quickly. And unfortunately, this one is as good as you are. Sometimes you swing and miss.
Yes, you never know. Of course, that's why they say in Hollywood, you're only as good as your last picture. So for these guys, Antlers right now is their last picture. But look, let's look ahead to next weekend, where, again, the director is only as good as her last picture, which happened to win the Oscar and win her Best Directing. She is Chloe Zhao. Last year's picture for her was Nomadland, and this year's picture right now is Eternals, and we're looking for another Marvel start. It's from Disney Marvel, of course. And the buzz that I'm hearing, Dick, 80 to 100 million.
Yeah, at opening, advanced ticket sales are going very well. This is a picture that Exhibition has been hoping for, a November weekend that is always a good weekend to launch pictures, the first weekend in November. The table is completely set. Now we just need the picture to be good.
Well, yes, and that always helps. But look, with the interest that there always is from the fan base for Marvel movies, we know it's going to get off to a very, very strong start and have a certain degree of momentum no matter what happens, but hopefully they like it. Let's give a listen to this sort of presentation of what Eternals is like. I guess you could call this the very, very fast catch-up if you don't know the story to begin with. So we'll talk about that in just a second or two.
Something's happening to Earth.
We need to find the others.
I haven't seen some of them for centuries.
You hear that, Sprite? Family reunion.
It's about time.
It's a really interesting mix. And having 10 characters, we're a big, slightly dysfunctional family.
This is what the end of the world looks like. At least we have front row seats.
Well, you know what's never saved the planet? Your sarcasm.
Cersei, she has the power to manipulate matter, and she's had a long-running on-off relationship with Icarus.
How long were you together?
5,000 years.
Oh, I guess you can call that long term.
Icarus is the loyal soldier.
Dad, that's Superman with the cape, and you're shooting laser beams out of your eyes.
I don't wear a cape.
Masters can assemble anything out of any kind of technology.
There were more deviants than you said.
Well, I'm sure that was fun for you.
It was.
Athena, she's the goddess of war. She can manifest different weapons, which was very fun.
And that was Eternals. Now you're caught up, you know what to expect, and we'll see where it goes. I think it's going to go very, very well. And, you know, as we leave October and transition directly now into November, we can say that October was the great month that you and I talked about as it was progressing, how good it was. ComScore's estimate is that for the month of October, the box office hit $638 million, which makes it the biggest month to date of 2021, beating July, which was just a little under $584 million. Now, I don't know, can you remember a year, Dick, when October beat July?
It hasn't happened, and this is life in the pandemic era, where the theaters get stronger and stronger as each month passes by. Great lineup of film in October, and with everybody back in school, people back to work, summer over, a fall weekend beats a heart of a summer, fall month beats a heart of a summer month. This hasn't happened, this doesn't happen, but only shows how fast the industry's coming back.
It is, and that is, of course, great news for everybody. As I look ahead to November, I'm thinking, and we'll see if I'm right, but I'm thinking November may take that box office crown away from October very, very quickly, because besides Eternals, you've got Ghostbusters Afterlight coming from Sony and Braun. You've got Disney Animation's PG Encanto, which is going to be the Thanksgiving film for families. And you've also got the alternative programming, let's call it, from Sony and Screen Gems of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is tracking really, really, really well. All of these films that I've just mentioned are all playing primarily in the tracking. They're tracking best with younger moviegoers. And I think we could be looking at a pretty fantastic November. What does it look like from your perspective?
Good, maybe not as good as you might be thinking. The thought goes to the fact that the comps around the Thanksgiving weekend are going to be very difficult with 2019. You had Frozen 2 out in the marketplace doing over $450 million, and a little picture called Knives Out opened on the Thanksgiving weekend and goes on to do $165 million. So the comps look very tough. I think November's going to be a good month, don't get me wrong, but the comps are very tough against 2019.
Well, I'm sure that is absolutely right, but of course, I can tell you without even looking, the comps with 2020 are a lot different, and 2020 was a year to get through and forget about. But look, we're moving forward, and things are looking better every week. We will be back again right here next week on Box Office Autopsy to let you know how Eternals lands at the multiplexes. And until then, thanks for listening.
Time now for our film flashback look at what was happening in Hollywood right around now, way back then. Let's set today's time travel dial for October 29th, 1957. Being in the right place at the right time put many of Hollywood's pioneers on the road to success, including MGM's Louis B. Mayer, who died October 29, 1957, at age 73. In 1923, Mayer was a struggling producer, trying to survive as major studios solidified control of the movie business. Mayer's tiny company was based at the Selig Zoo on Mission Road near downtown L.A., where pioneer William Selig kept wild animals for jungle movies. Mayer's production chief was the very young Irving Thalberg, who'd headed production at Universal until falling out with founder Carl Laemmle over not wanting to marry the boss's daughter. Mayer's movies were being released through Metro Pictures, the large but struggling Hollywood studio owned by New York theater tycoon Marcus Loew. To get the steady stream of pictures he needed, Loew directed his attorney, J. Robert Rubin, to acquire the financially troubled Goldwyn Company, which owned a 35-acre studio in Culver City. Although Goldwyn shared producer Samuel Goldwyn's name, he no longer headed it after endless disputes with his partners. When Mayer heard about the intended acquisition, he realized that while Loew had money to compete and would soon own a prime studio facility, he'd have no one able to make all the movies he needed. During months of negotiations between Loew and Goldwyn, Mayer grew his own studio, stockpiling ideas for future pictures and hiring high-profile British writer Eleanor Glynn to create original movie material. After buying Goldwyn, Loew visited L.A. to see his new studio. Mayer knew Rubin and got him to bring Loew to Mission Road to meet Mayer and Thalberg, enabling Mayer to plant a seed about his ability to generate all the movies Loew needed. When Loew returned to New York, he found he'd also acquired two wildly over-budget Goldwyn pictures, the epic Ben-Hur, shooting in Italy, and auteur Erich von Stroheim's drama Greed, which ran over 7 hours. Lowe had Mayer come to meet in New York. He bought Mayer's company and put Mayer, Thalberg, and Rubin in charge of his new studio. They'd get 20% of the profits to share, with 10% going to Mayer, as long as they produced at least 15 films in the next 2 years, which they actually did in less than half a year. The deal creating Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was signed April 10th, 1924. On Saturday, April 26th, the studio officially opened, with Mayer proudly presiding over a day of festivities. And that's it for today's podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with another box office autopsy next week. In Hollywood for Screendollars, I'm Martin Grove.